Spend enough time online, and I think you'll come across about every idea iteration imaginable, and then some. Within our own fandom, you'll find folks who treasure episodes that the majority seem to denounce, character interpretations that are completely opposite your own, and some ideas that seem so opposite to one's own view, it's fascinating to follow the thread and try to make sense. One such expression I've run across is that Equestria would be better off in the alternate future where Nightmare Moon reigned. I've witnessed several fans attest that it's not that bad, or that the trade-off of freedom for security justifies the situation. And so I want to explore this idea and see how it reflects upon not only Nightmare Moon, but upon Celestia's reign. Before tackling the main issue, I'm going to once again call upon Jungian archetypes. I've mentioned in past videos that Celestia serves as the queen/mother archetype. Her role is to nurture her charge's growth and create an environment in which they can flourish. This means a great deal of sacrifice on her part. Celestia could be many things, and with such power she could likely have her choice. Yet she devotes that power towards providing daylight to her subjects and focuses her time on helping ponies grow and develop. Celestia never seeks or demands praise, and instead earns it with quiet dignity. This is because she has embraced a contradiction. She is in a position of power, yet she recognizes that the end goal has nothing to do with herself. Her greatest accomplishments are not feats like imprisoning Discord in stone or banishing Nightmare Moon. These were requirements. Her true success is measured by her subjects' success. The newest Wonderbolt, who inspires the next Flyer generation. The party planner who builds relations with foreign tribes. A fashionista who is giving opportunities to others. A successful farming family that grew a whole community. A timid spirit who, with Celestia's encouragement, won over one of their most dangerous enemies. And an eager student who became something more and is now teaching others. All of these successes can be traced back to Celestia, and that is her testament as a mother figure. Yet like all archetypes, the highest point casts two shadows, a passive and an aggressive. In this case, it's not hard to view Chrysalis as the aggressive shadow and Nightmare Moon as the passive. But it turns out I got that backwards. Reading up on these archetypes at Jungian.info, the descriptions got me to realize that though Chrysalis acts as the more hostile, she's actually the passive shadow, the saboteur. This shadow's weakness is a fragile ego. Everything she does is to boost her sense of self, even at the expense of her charges. She's completely unwilling to give up anything to serve as a leader, and will not accept any responsibility for consequences. Rather than strive to be more, she undermines her own subjects by setting up scenarios where she can criticize them regardless of outcome. Which might explain why she doesn't keep a closer eye on Twilight and company at the end of A Canterlot Wedding, or why she didn't deal with Starlight more quickly and to where and back again. Often this isn't a conscious desire, but she operates by wanting to create opportunities where she can find the fault in others. Because of this, the saboteur undermines not only her subjects' health, but her own. She's not building anything up, just pulling everything down so she can pretend she's stronger.
You know nothing of the changelings or what it takes to be their queen. I decide what is best for my subjects, not some mewling grub.
But looking at Chrysalis's kingdom and the alternate future where she's conquered Equestria, it's easy to see why the surviving ponies resist. After all, the alternative is to become changeling food, or perhaps death.
The changelings attacked Ponyville! We barely escaped with our lives!
But what about a world ruled by Nightmare Moon? A world where there is no resistance. It's difficult to make a lot of assertions since we only see this place for a few minutes, and it's limited to just the castle. But we can infer a lot from knowledge of both the setup and Nightmare Moon's archetype. First and foremost, I think it's safe to assume that there is no resistance in this world. Not because there isn't a rebellion taking place in the throne room, but because of what came before. As Twilight said,
"Because every present I come to is worse than the last!"
And we went from a war-torn world in a deadlock to a world where ponies lost and the resistance is in its final days. So it's a safe bet that Nightmare Moon's rule is absolute. Yet folks who say this future isn't so bad would likely point out that no one is being drained of love or being turned into a slave soldier. In fact, a lot of the doom that people would assume comes with Eternal Night hasn't happened. Go ahead, play that classic old clip.
Every plant and tree will die. Owls will deafen us with incessant hooting. The town's sundial will be useless.
And it's here that folks who support this idea make their main point. Nightmare Moon is a much more aggressive ruler, the kind who wouldn't tolerate any threat or allow one to develop unchecked. As a result, a lot of the threats that grew to endanger Celestia's rule would likely be stamped out. Discord's statue would be shattered and the dust scattered to the wind. The inmates of Tartarus might get loose, so better to just take them out while they're weakened. A being that jealously guards their throne would likely demand higher security, and even if a changeling could sneak in, how much of a chance would it stand? The main point seems to be that an absence of freedom creates a realm where one needn't fear outside threats. I'd even wager that uprisings like Starlight's cult would be dealt with swift and harsh. It's in a similar vein to when I talked with a friend about the show House of Cards. I asked why she enjoyed a show that focused on such a selfish, awful man's rise to power. She said that, given the display we've seen from actual governments, the story of a savvy, strategic, and ruthless individual is appealing. That we might want someone like that in office because if his survival is linked with that of the country, then we'd be safer as a byproduct. And it's easy to see why that would be appealing, much the same as Nightmare Moon's reign. Celestia has been brought low, humiliated, defeated, and captured so many times that it's gone past comedic to tragic. So seeing a more hardline ruler does have some appeal. But there's a key aspect to that argument. It relies on the ruler's interests being aligned with the country's. Just as Frank Pugliese cares nothing for America beyond his ability to rule it, Nightmare Moon only cares about Equestria's well-being insofar as they acknowledge her efforts. Nightmare Moon is the Queen's aggressive shadow, known as the Martyr. She is well aware of everything that she's had to give up for this position. But while Celestia accepts this with humility and devotion, Nightmare Moon won't let anyone forget what she's given up or suffered.
Why? Am I not royal enough for you? Don't you know who I am? Does my crown no longer count now that I have been imprisoned for 1,000 years?
My sister has been imprisoned in the moon for years! But it is no less a fate than she sentenced me to.
Her entire worldview is based on receiving praise and vindication, but it's never going to be enough. And so she'll defend Equestria as long as it makes her look good. But do you really think she'd stop there? If the condition for her rule is that no one else can take the spotlight, even for a moment, what do you think happened to most of the characters we've seen thus far? For starters, most magic users and Wonderbolts are in danger. Why do I say this? Because of one line.
No pony in my kingdom but me should possess a magic powerful enough to change time.
If someone else displays magic that Nightmare Moon can't match, then they become a competitor for the public's affection, and possibly a challenge to her throne. Celestia started a school and nurtured the talent of several unicorns, who in turn affected the lives of others. Even Sunburst, who never graduated, had the resources available to continue learning and help save the day. Nightmare Moon would never allow a school to create a competitor, nor would she allow magic outside her control. That's why I say the Wonderbolt's future would be in danger. Likely they've been disbanded. Even without their stunt work, they held a place in Equestria's heart.
The first performance was so full of energy, so highly charged, that magical lightning showered down on the crowd.
And if they can summon up a magic that she can't duplicate, then there's no reason to allow the team to still function, even if the members swore allegiance. So I think it's safe to say that there are no schools for teaching anything beyond basic magic, and there are no performances taking place without Nightmare Moon's consent. Do you think that performers like Ra-Ra and Sapphire Shores would get to sing if it wasn't in Nightmare Moon's honor? Probably not, and I doubt that either could sing with all their heart in such a climate. Another key aspect of the Martyr is that she'll not take direct action. In this case, I doubt that Nightmare Moon would openly destroy a school or order that the Wonderbolts be disbanded. Such an act wouldn't endear the public, only foster resistance. A martyr will often rely on manipulation and guilt to discredit others, leaving her the sole authority. Odds are she'd employ an agent like the Flim Flam brothers or others to embarrass any rivals. In doing so, she cements her own power, but takes more away from the world than what she gives. Just look at how Rarity and Rainbow Dash turned out.
The princess asked you a question, and unless you want to end up in the dungeon, you'll tell her what she wants to know.
Here is Rainbow Dash, angry and loud. And why shouldn't she be? Her dream of being a Wonderbolt ended the day Nightmare Moon took power. She hasn't got anything to serve as an example because they've either been brought to heel, discredited, and or disbanded. So she's got nothing but Nightmare Moon to believe in. That's why she's staying in a castle, not inspiring young fillies like Scootaloo. Same with Rarity, who never had trouble conversing with Spike when they first met. And yet...
I don't socialize with dragons. I don't know any pony who would.
Rarity might be an even better example than Rainbow. For while Rainbow can at least fly in Nightmare Moon's service, Rarity's top ambition is tending to the decorations.
The tapestries all need changing. Again.
Owning her own shop? Making dresses for famous ponies? Shining like a star across Equestria? None of those options are available. Rarity has reached the limit of her career and her dreams. But wait, the cynics say. What good are hopes and dreams if you're dead? At least Nightmare Moon keeps the dangers away. I'll answer that with 2 questions. First off, are you really living in a state such as this? Second, what makes you assume that Nightmare Moon's residents are safe? Remember, this whole setup is based on Nightmare Moon feeling satisfied with the pony's affection. Their well-being is an afterthought, and collateral damage would be dismissed. Nightmare Moon does what's right for Nightmare Moon, and it's very easy for that to turn into harm for the ponies who haven't done anything wrong. Just look at how afraid Rainbow and that guard look when Celestia's name is mentioned. Yet you could walk right up to Celestia and spout ideals about safety under Nightmare Moon's reign, and she'd likely answer,
"There is no wrong way to fantasize."
There's also the question of what happens when a power superior to Nightmare Moon appears. There are any number of unknown threats in the world, and sooner or later, time or complacency will undermine her. Then who is going to step in and prevent another power's oppression? I roll my eyes when Celestia is brought low to set the stage for some pony else to save the day. But the thing about the world she's created is that there are many who can fulfill that role. If Celestia falls, then Twilight and friends step up to the challenge. If they're in trouble, then Starlight Glimmer and her friends rise up. If they should fail, then there are ponies like Sunburst, Moondancer, the Wonderbolts, and more who would have a stake in saving everyone. You could work your way down the list until the Cutie Mark Crusaders are the lead heroines, and they'd still be willing and able to step up. Because no matter what Celestia has done wrong, her best move has been to give others the space and opportunity to grow. Nightmare Moon's world begins with her, and it would end with her, for there is no hope. Celestia's Equestria is a world where there is no last hope. When I look at fictional worlds like Nightmare Moon's enslaved Equestria, or any dystopian future that outlines our fears, I see worlds that are lacking not just in freedom, but also creativity, hope, trust, drive, or optimism. I see worlds that have settled for the baseline, and its populace lie to themselves with phrases like, "This is how the world works," or "This is better than the alternative." When I look at the world Celestia has nurtured, I see characters who strive to be more than what they are now, and can inspire others to become more. I see individuals who are not afraid to dream, and those efforts enrich the world around them. I see what happens when a leader acknowledges her own power, but devotes that power towards goals outside her own gratification. I see a mother figure who acts out of genuine love, which carries forward to everyone. Is it a perfect world? Of course not. Having the ability to grow means accepting that there will be mistakes. The wrong person might gain a position of power. A mistake can seemingly cost you your future. Bad things can happen, and there are times where you have to trust in others to help carry the day. Both carry a price, but when I weigh the pros and cons, I hope I would have the courage to stand up for a free life rather than cower behind false security. I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for watching.